One of the worst kept secrets that PlayStation is releasing a PlayStation 5 Pro, aka Project Trinity, but I know that you guys want to know three things and three things only. How powerful is it going to be? How much will it cost? And why is PlayStation releasing the PlayStation 5 Pro in the first place? But before we get into that, make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe, and also make sure you watch another video after watching this video. It tells the algorithm that you want other people to watch the video, and I would greatly appreciate it. Let's get into it. The PlayStation 5 Pro, or Project Trinity, is a culmination of three key technology: fast storage, hardware acceleration, compression, and decompression, already in existing key PlayStation 5 technology, accelerated ray tracing, and upscaling. So for the people that wanted more shinies in their PlayStation, this is definitely going to be the PlayStation 5 Pro that you're going to want to pick up, because it's going to have all the shine. And as far as the CPU goes, it's going to be the same CPU. It's just going to be beefed up a little bit more with a little bit more memory on each core, and it's going to bring up the frequency to 4.4 gigahertz in terms of speed. As far as the GPU looks like it's going to be pretty beefy. It's going to still have 16 gigabytes of GDDR6 and 256-bit memory bus of 576 gigabytes of memory bandwidth, which is about 120 gigabytes of improvement from the previous PlayStation, which is quite a bit, and it's gonna make it go up to 28.67 teraflops. Now, for people who don't know what teraflops are, let me get into the nerdy stuff. So the PlayStation 5 is around 10 to 11 teraflops. Now, if you want to equate that to a GPU in a PC, the 3060 or the 3060 Ti is around 14 teraflops. So you can get around 1440p with 60 frames per second with some ray tracing on that with DLSS. We'll get into what DLSS is later. So it's a pretty mid-range chip at this point. The 3060 used to be high-end. When I bought my PC 2 years ago, the 3060 Ti was top of the line, and you could pretty much run everything on high-end like settings. So the PlayStation 5 is no slouch. It's pretty strong. It's around 11 teraflops. It's a little weaker than the 3060, but it's pretty strong. Now, the equivalent of this PlayStation 5 Pro is kind of insane in my opinion, and I don't think it's going to be 28 teraflops when it's all said and done. I think it's going to be 20 to 22 teraflops, which would make it 30% stronger than the PlayStation 5, which is kind of insane. Now, if you want to know an equivalent of what the PlayStation 5 Pro's GPU is going to be like in terms of PC GPUs, it's more than likely going to be like a 4060 Ti that is at 22 teraflops and can do all the ray tracing stuff that is pretty freaking great. The 4060 Ti is probably like a mid-tier chip, or kind of low-end chip at this point. Like it's not gonna like run everything at max, but it's gonna depend on DLSS and other AI upscaling techniques. Now, what is DLSS? That's the question that people should be asking. DLSS, or for AMD in their GPU, FSSR, is a upscaling technology that takes a 1080p image and it upscales it to 4K. And really, at this point, the technology has gotten so good that it's kind of hard to tell what's 4K and what's 1080p upscaled. Like, if you put the images side by side, like, it's kind of hard to tell. It's kind of like the filmmakers who say, well, I can tell the difference between film and digital. Like, you can't really tell at this point. You kind of have to be a snot in order to be able to tell. And on top of that, the new GPU that AMD is going to put into this PlayStation 5 Pro, well, not new, but more beefed up with more features, is going to have RDNA 3 with RDNA 4 features for ray trace, which means that it's going to have so much more technology that's better than the PlayStation 5 is currently doing right now. Currently, the PlayStation 5 cannot do ray tracing on its hardware, so that's why the ray tracing is a little in comparison to PC and other hardware that's out there, like the Xbox Series X. And on top of that, it's going to have XDNA 2 NPU, which is pretty much going to beef up all the processes of AI on the GPU, which will allow the AMD GPU like FSSR to be able to upscale its image a lot easier and have a lot better performance. Currently, the upscaling goal is 4K output at a higher than 30 frames per second is the goal, and September 24th will be the reveal. So that's all the bells and whistles that's coming with the PlayStation 5 Pro, you get a little bit more of improvement on the CPU and a beefy GPU. Now, how much is this going to cost? Now, the reason why I think that this thing isn't going to be a 28 teraflop machine is because A, it's going to be too hot, and B, it's going to be too expensive. So it's going to be at around 20 to 22 teraflops, in my opinion, around there. Now, how much is it going to be? I expect this thing to be $499, and I think a lot of people will call me crazy for thinking this thing's going to be $499. I expect at one point or another that the PlayStation 5 Pro is going to release at $499, and the PlayStation 5 base right now is more than likely going to be cut to around $399 with the disc and $299 without the disc at one point, or at least $350. At the end of the day, PlayStation wants to sell consoles, and it wants to sell it at a price that people can buy, and $499, or at least at a little bit more than that, is a price that people are going to be willing to pay for. I don't think people are going to be willing to pay a lot more than that, maybe $100 more than that, but $499, in my opinion, is the best price that they can charge for this device, and that's with a disc. $499 with a disc. Now, why is PlayStation releasing a PlayStation 5 Pro? Well, I think PlayStation wants to extend this generation as long as it can, because right now there is a uncertainty when it comes to PlayStation and getting its manufacturing for its next PlayStation that's coming out. Keep in mind that there's a lot of uncertainty when it comes to fab chips and trying to get chips at a reasonable price at this point. And PlayStation sees that, and Xbox also sees that. I don't think Xbox is going to release a Pro, but release an entire generation about in a year or two. Let me know what you think about this PlayStation 5 Pro. Do you think it's going to be too expensive? Do you think it's underpowered? Do you think that 30% is a little too little to extend the hardware for another 4 to 5 years? I think that 30% is completely reasonable, and I think that this is going to extend the console just enough to get to the point where we get to the next generation and figure out where those chips are going to be made and by who. And yeah, make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe, and remember, you are pretty good. Don't forget to watch another video if you enjoyed this one.